Boom, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to another episode of Dream Chasers, where hustle meets house. I'm your host, General Moses, today joined by Alexander. You might also want to call him Hume. You also might want to call him by his artist name, which he'll share all of that good stuff with you here in a moment. He is a music sound engineer is a complete understatement, folks. And I know I even asked him before I hit record, should I introduce you as that? And he was like, very politely, he was like, you can if you want to, but this is everything else that I do. I'm like, dang, okay. So basically, like, music sound gangster is how we're gonna define you here today.
Thank you.
Before I forget, everyone tuned in, don't forget, sponsor of our show is House of Hustle. So you can go to houseofhustleltd.com right now. Check out the merch. Check out the sample packs. A lot going on at House of Hustle right now. Again, it's houseofhustleltd.com. And if you do buy anything, use the code HUSTLE15 at checkout. Let's get into it. So, Alexander, great to have you here. It was cool. You and I guess you could say, kind of indirectly work together with some of my music that was released at House of Hustle, which is a cool story in a way that, when I saw we were going to have you on the show, I didn't. You already knew, I think, more about me than than I realized, which I was like, oh, that's cool. But for everyone to get to know you, let's talk about this Seattle-based journey that you're on.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was born in New York City, but I've lived here for pretty much my whole life. Moved here when I was like about three. And apart from a short time at college in the state capital here in Olympia, Washington, I've been here my whole life. And I've always been doing music. I was in choir, I was in jazz band. My family is very musically inclined. My dad played guitar. My mom was a singer or is a singer. They still are those things. It's not really, their career paths, but it's definitely very influential for me. Um, and yeah, I at a young age, I got really interested specifically in the engineering and production side of things. One of my earlier introductions was like Audacity on the computer and like computer lab at school, GarageBand, like really early GarageBand. My friend had a copy of Fruity Loops when I was, I don't know, around maybe 10 or so.
Man,
And yeah, it kind of just snowballed from there. I realized that I was really passionate about it, started making my own beats. I made some stuff in LSDJ, which was like a music tracker that is for the Game Boy Color. And so I was messing with that a little bit, and I had like an emulator on the computer, was trying to like mostly like covering other people's songs, but um yeah, just a lot of music stuff since the early age. Um and yeah, eventually it kind of turned into me doing stuff for other people, for my friends. And then they referred people and started getting more legit clients, and then started working with labels, starting with bigger labels. And then to now working with really big labels. I've worked with Mousetrap. I've worked on releases for Mousetrap. I worked on releases for Universal Music Group, for Space Yacht. And I also had my own artist project, EMA, which is my last name backwards, just kind of taken a back seat for the time being, not because I don't really like it, but just because it's really hard to manage writing music for myself. I still find time here to do it. Actually, I've been working slash finish an album of kind of like alternative electronic hyperpop dance music. It's very eclectic style. And I think that comes across in my music too, that I really do my own thing, and it can make it hard to find labels that want to release my music, but that's another discussion. But I really enjoy music, and it's been a huge part of my life for my entire life. And yeah, and I feel so grateful to be able to do this. I mean, this has always been my dream. And there was a time where I kind of felt like, okay, I got to figure out like a career. Like I got to figure out something that's going to really pay the bills, that's going to really help support a healthy livelihood mentally, and financially. And yeah, I feel so grateful to be able to do that now, because this is my full-time thing. I have a few other jobs that I work on. I'm also a live sound engineer. I work at a local theater. Um, I've worked at churches, and yeah, I've done a wide array of different stuff. But yeah, my main passion, and the thing I want to do as much as possible, is work on music and help other people achieve the best quality sound and audio accompaniment for, their project, their brand, whatever that may be. So, um, yeah, I feel really grateful to be able to do this. This has just always been my dream.
Yeah, a lot about your story there resonates with me. One thing I'd like to do, just while we have, if you look at the life cycle of any YouTube video, podcast, or whatever, the most listenership and viewers is always like the first 5 minutes or whatever.
Mm,
Like, if anyone ever knows a piece of content where the viewership actually goes up as like the content goes on, I would love to to study that content just for the sake
mm,
of being a
yeah.
creator. So the reason why I say that is we have probably the most people tuned into the show listening right now. We got to get you in front of as many people as possible. So for those just based on hearing your story already, like, man, you know what? I got to reach out to Hume and see if I can work with him. Just go ahead and drop your information here on the show right now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I pretty much only use Instagram these days. I've tried to just kind of condense it down to one platform so that way I can keep having as much interpersonal interaction with people and really stay on top of that. So that's just at Hume Audio, Hume Audio, all one unit. And then my website is humeaudio.com. And so on there, you can find a contact forum, and you can also find like a specification slash pricing thing if you're ready to go and just kind of ready to start working on stuff. And yeah, I always like to like do a consultation with people. I always like to get to know people. I keep my circle really small. I'm not one of those engineers that's like constantly putting my I'm not like marketing it all the time, and it's not because I'm not passionate about it. It's because I want to focus as much as I can on the art. I am passionate about content creation and sharing that stuff. But ultimately, the thing I want to be doing is I want to be in the studio. I want to be listening to my speakers. I want to listen to my headphones. I want to be writing songs. So yeah, any way I can spend my time doing that is great. And so that's why I try and keep my circle small, and I try to work through referrals or people who have seen my work or listened to my work rather, and are interested in having me do stuff for them.
Love it, and also work with people who listen to Dream Chasers.
Yes.
Right, there you go. Cool, man. Well, one thing you said about your story there, which I just I'm kind of curious to hear if you remember specifically where it went from this moment. But similar to you, you mentioned Fruity Loops, FL Studio,
Hmm.
which I haven't touched that program in particular in probably about a decade, but that was my gateway
Mm, nice.
to this whole world as well. I'll never forget. I was probably, I was definitely in middle school, and my older brother was, who's not a music producer, but he was tinkering around with it, and I always give him credit for me getting into this game because of him. But yeah, I'll just never forget playing around with what was Fruity Loops at the time. I think it was Fruity Loops 3. Is how far.
Hmm.
And I just want to know. It sounds like kind of a similar thing happened to you. So Fruity Loops was your Genesis story as well.
Yeah, as far as music production, yeah, it was in the era of downloading stuff through non-legitimate means.
Like, yeah,
So we had a
LimeWire and all that. Yeah.
LimeWire and torrents and stuff, and I'm sure that stuff's still around now. But yeah, it was a very I don't even remember what version number we were on, but yeah, we were just messing around with the sequencer and stuff, and I don't think we even were really able to make anything. It just kind of went over our heads. We were just way too young, but just that really opened the door. And then when I started listening to music, I a lot of background playing instruments and singing too, but it really opened the door to like the music production side. And I think it kind of changed how I was hearing the music. So some artists I was listening to at the time were like Daft Punk or Justice. So kind of more songwriter meets electronic music stuff. And so I started hearing that through the lens of music production and music engineering, and that really, I think, changed the game for me. And then like shortly after that, I was like, okay, I want to get like a micro Korg, and I started getting more into like synthesizers and programming drums. Yeah, I think like the first songs I made or the first kind of mixing stuff I did was in GarageBand, or maybe Audacity. But yeah, Fruity Loops was definitely like the genesis of everything. Just kind of being exposed to that as little or as unexperienced as I was.
Yeah, man. I love that. And shout out to yeah, the LimeWire era. I even remember as
Yeah.
far. I don't know if you remember, or for like how close in age we are, but for me, that even that stuff started with Kazaa in particular.
I don't know that
Remember
one.
Kazaa? That'd have
No.
been like '02. I would have been like
Mm.
9, I think.
Okay.
But
Yeah. I'm 30, so 2 years younger than you, it sounds like.
yeah,
Yeah, my cousin, and also actually good story about LimeWire. I forgot about this. Good thing to talk about. So my cousin Ryan showed me LimeWire. Came over to my house, and I don't know, around that age. And he showed me LimeWire, and I was like, this is awesome. And then he showed me Satisfaction by Benny Benassi. And I had never
Dang.
heard a song like that. And that was very foundational moment for me of hearing that da 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 da.
Oh
And so
man.
I remember hearing that and just being like, wow, like music is incredible. Like I had never thought of music being in that way. And I love hooks. I love a chorus and I love a hook. And a thing I really love about electronic music and dance music is about how it's a lot of it is kind of you're in that flow state of that chorus or that hook, and you kind of are living in that space for an entire track. And I loved that permission that electronic music kind of gave people, or gives people rather, to live in that space for an entire length of a song, rather than, not that I don't love written and acoustic music as well, but just it's a really kind of unique perspective on music that I had not really been exposed to that much at the time. And another one was the Numa Numa dance, actually, the Ozone song. I
Yeah.
remember like the early YouTube era of seeing that and just being like, wow, like this is incredible. And then also with the Daft Punk thing, the way I found Daft Punk was on a Newgrounds video as well, which is like an old like kind of meme video website like back in the day where people would just kind of like watch like little cartoons and stuff like that. But there was a music video someone had made to Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger, where they put in characters from a SNES game. And that was the first time I'd been exposed to Daft Punk. So it
Yeah.
was a cool era to come up. Yeah, it was definitely those kind of three moments were really big for me.
Yeah, you're making me realize I need to intentionally have more people on the show, within 4 years of my age, because everything you're talking about right now, I'm like, this is one of the most relatable moments I feel like I've had
That's
on the
awesome.
show on the show in a while. Because man, I remember you mentioned the Benny Benassi Satisfaction. I mean, you're also helping me remember, think of just about how linear this industry. I mean, just really how linear the world was. But until the internet came around, and now you look at what's at everyone's fingertips just with AI. We went from kind of just one way to get a lot of information to
Mm,
it's like we could probably talk about that on the show today too. Is just figuring out which way to go now. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, that Benassi, because yeah, I'm sure that we weren't the only kids downloading Benny,
Oh
Satisfaction
no, not at all.
at that time,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
My cousin exposed me to it, so like I'm sure he was in that realm as well.
I
He's
think I
a
heard. Yeah, go
few
ahead.
years older than me too.
I feel like I heard Marshall Jefferson say on an interview recently. He dropped the number. I'm sure you actually probably know this better than I do too, but the amount of records that get released daily compared
Mm,
to like 20 years ago, it's like more get released in one day than did in like a year, you know?
yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I would love to, on that note, shift to um, where you feel like quality production kind of lives these days. Cause
Mm,
I think that's a big piece of records that do well, obviously, is the production, like especially kind of what you do, like the mixing. Um, but I'm sure there's plenty of records that you've seen now too that have a phenomenal uh, mix down, and no one ever hears them.
mhm.
So, just what for you? What comes to mind on like this type of topic?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Yeah, it's a weird time because, like, definitely the access of information is so much greater. New people that are just getting into electronic music or dance music or just music production and engineering in general. There's so much more information online. Um, there's way more people that have like a laptop and headphones that can make amazing productions. And before that was like such an anomaly. Like I remember when like Skrillex was having a really big come up, like kind of the early 2010s. That era, it was like it was such a spectacle. Like, wow, look at what he's able to do with such limited technology. And nowadays, it's like that's just commonplace. Like the best artists, most like maybe not most, but a ton of them are producing music in that space. As far as like how that relates to like making quality, impactful music, I think the process is kind of the same. I think that we're all just kind of acting as arbiters of our own tastes, and then we turn that into our own types of music. I'd say there's a lot more kind of copycat kind of stuff. And also because the barrier for entry is so much lower, you get a lot more stuff where people are just like emulating things or they just kind of take things that they know that work and just kind of repackage them. And then um, it's just it's more commodified, I guess is how to describe it. um but at the same time, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. It's like it also allows people who have really good ideas to be successful faster and not have to spend so much time. Or I mean, I spent so many hours, and I went to school for audio engineering too, and amongst other things, it wasn't the only thing I studied, but that felt really essential to my journey at the time. And honestly, nowadays, I kind of questioned how valuable that is. I think like I made a lot of great connections there. I learned a lot, but there just wasn't, and that wasn't even that long ago. I mean, I graduated in 2019. So there was not the level of information and access that there is now. I mean, even in this short amount of time, it's just gone up so much. Even for mastering, I did a mastering. Was it called like independent learning contract is what we called it at school. So I did mentorships and things all pertaining to mastering because I was getting really into mastering at the time. So I've been doing a lot of mastering for the past 7 years or so. But yeah, just information or mastering. I mean, you can do mastering master classes online and watch recorded videos of some of the best accoladed mastering engineers. The access to as far as social media is a lot greater. But yeah, I think even though access has gone up, there's a lot more misinformation and a lot more stuff to sort through. And so that the stuff we're kind of talking about, like growing up and it kind of like building us up as people can kind of shortcut that. And so it's it's hard. It's hard for it's hard
Yeah.
for younger people to sort through that. So like in some ways it's easier, but in some ways it's harder. So I don't know if it's like necessarily just been like a complete upwards trajectory and ease. But yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's such an interesting question. There's so much nuance like in the answer to it, and it's just interesting to like kind of just ponder that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, my biggest takeaway from what you shared just now is regardless of how the industry has shifted over time, some of the biggest impacts in your life have come from the networking piece. And I think
Yeah.
that is like fundamentally probably, especially as we're now in this AI boom, if people want to find a common ground to consistently take their careers to the next level, I think it's still going to come down to what human hand can shake. Um, but now at the same time, I would love to know your perspective on the AI wave, and I would say as best as you in most of a positive light as you possibly can, because I think it's easy for us to. I know I could sit here and talk about all the things that are wrong with
Yeah, yeah,
AI,
for sure. Yeah,
but
yeah.
there's huge opportunity if you look at the internet boom and the social media boom and now the AI boom. The companies and people that always seem to thrive are the ones that figured out a way to embrace it and use it to their advantage. So
Yeah.
where are you seeing the most opportunities in dance music with AI right now, especially in your world?
Yeah, so I think I liken AI to the internet like in the early days. It's like there's a lot of good stuff and there's a lot of bad. And unfortunately, the majority of people are gonna glom on to the bad shit. And so that's kind of where, it gets a bad rap. And definitely like all the stuff about like the corporations and all that stuff, that's a whole other kind of discussion. But as far as the benefits of it, I mean, I think like as far as like um as long as there's a focus on what's the word? Kind of the um I'm lacking the word here, but so I think as far as the technology as long as the technology you're using is produced in a way and sourced in a way that is not messing up people's lives, I think that there's a lot of value. I mean, just in the instance of um, like text, predictive text, for example. I also studied writing in school. And so predictive text is a form of AI in that, it simplifies stuff and it allows us to do what we need to do as a writer in a much more efficient way. And so I can see the potential of AI and I mean, even sample packs, there's kind of a lot of crossover with that stuff. It's like, you just have more access if it's comparing it to like painting, you have more access to a wider palette of colors. And so that access is really, really valuable to people because then there's more people who come from less of a privileged background. They have more access to making amazing music. And that side of it is amazing. I mean, that side is really exciting because then you get people that 20 years ago, they never would have been able to make a record. Frankly, wouldn't even have been able to release a record just because now you can sign up for websites where you can release your own music. But to bring it back to the AI thing, the things that I find AI to be really valuable for is like kind of dissecting our own understanding rather than it just like providing us understanding. So I think it's really important for people to not lose their critical thinking skills. And so there's a balance of that where it can be a really valuable way to augment stuff that we've already worked on. But the unfortunate side is that it can kind of create people who are not critically thinking and they're using the AI stuff to make sense for them. So an example of this is like you'll see a lot of posts online where people say, specifically talking about mastering, but you could kind of apply this to anything where they ask AI, dissect my mastering chain. And so it kind of just throws the subjectivity out the window. And at the end of the day, as much as we want to believe that music and art is this objective thing that, you do this certain thing and it achieves this goal, it's not really how the world works. And so it gives a very closed off perspective of creativity. And so I think it's important for people to use these tools in a way where it augments their experience. So it's really important if you are utilizing AI that the prompting is pulling you back into that subjective space, because if it's bringing you to an objective space, some of that stuff can be helpful. I mean, some of it is actually measurable. You can look at like the loudness of successful tracks. But there's a double-edged sword there. You
Yeah.
see this with Isotope, and I've actually even made a video like this before where it was on my YouTube page where I was sharing like, here are the loudness metrics of a popular song, and kind of talking about these pseudo-objective qualities of it. But the thing is that a lot of people see that and they kind of just run with it. And they're like, oh, well, if it's this loudness, then my track needs to be this loudness. And
Right.
so they skip over that critical thinking part. But if you don't, it can still give you really valuable information. And you can think about, oh, well, if this, successful track is this loudness or has this type of tonal balance, how can I achieve that on my own side? Rather than being like, how do I fit this square peg into the circle peg? It's like, how do I whittle that down? Like, how do I physically change what I'm doing? Um, but yeah, I mean, I see a lot of potential in that. And like, I also use a lot of like, I don't use I don't really use much like LLM, like ChatGPT and things like that. I'm not really a big fan of those, mostly because the stuff that I do is very high level. And so there's not really data sets out there for this type of work that I'm doing, frankly. And it's highly subjective. So it cannot parse down these subjective decisions. I'm thinking about my experiences. I'm thinking of literally, I've worked on thousands of projects. And so I'm pulling upon that lexicon of experience, and my brain is not yet uploaded to the AI, knock
Yeah.
on wood.
Yeah.
But so I think it can be useful to like augment stuff. But sorry, I kind of got lost the track. Oh yeah, so the AI tools that I do like are the ones that work natively on the computer, because if I can have control of that, then I can adjust stuff. So like Isotope Ozone has its AI mastering function, which is it's a great suite of plugins that I use all the time. I love the maximizer and all these things. Has a lot of these tools that take data sets of songs And it kind of it's like that square peg, circle peg kind of analogy. But the AI is very heavy handed with it. When you just ask it to just master your track, or a lander, these things like that, they look at it very, very objectively. And
Mm.
so, or they, as much as objectively as possible as exists in art. And so I do use some of those AI assisted tools like spectral kind of analysis based tools that make decisions based on the incoming audio signal. But all of the decisions I make are relevated within my experience. So the AI, like for just as a example, anecdotal example, if I use like there's a plugin in Isotope called the stabilizer, and there's another one called the clarity module. They work upon these principles. So they look at kind of the psychoacoustic perception of music as well as like their own data sets, and then kind of recommend to you, here's how your audio should be affected. Those kind of tools can be really useful, but they go so heavy handed with it because it's that square circle um, metaphor or analogy where it's trying to like force your track into this box, but it's not taking into account like you might have made decisions that were really valuable to that song. And I think it's good to always think at the end of the day, like the value that we bring to people as artists is our own individual perspectives. So utilizing these tools, while it can be helpful to kind of reach more people, if you go too far with them, then you run the risk of taking away the core of your song. You start kind of neutralizing these like evocative elements that really make it stick out. And if you check out like really famous popular songs right now, they don't meet all of these pseudo objective metrics, even though you could kind of force yourself to think that like, oh, like there's the tonal balance in Isotope is another one that is really can be really useful, where it shows you kind of here's the range of where your track can be in the EQ. You try and fit it in that box. But if you look at individual tracks or tracks by different artists, they'll be all over the place. It's just an average. So it's good to think about like, you can make decisions based on it, but it's really good to kind of check yourself and be like, well, what am I doing as an artist? Or what's the sound design here? What's the songwriting? Because all of those are just as important as those measurements and things. And so people are really trying to like gamify audio and music. This is kind of a thing I talk about some of the like consulting or just tutoring lessons with people, is kind of like trying to turn audio into a video game. And it is really fun. I'll be totally frank. Like I love video games. I like that side of audio engineering. I love messing around with stuff. Like it's really fun tinkering with things, but it's also good to never like, I mean, easier said than done, but to try not to lose sight of that human element of it, because that is a big part of what people like. And then to bring it back to the networking side, a big part of artistry is who you know. There are a lot of successful artists in visual art, music that frankly are not, the best at what they do. Like it doesn't make me feel good to say that, but frankly, they're not like what's the word? They're not like virtuosos. But the thing that really resonates with people is the way that they relate to other people and the way that they convey their brand. And AI, can augment your process in like understanding that, developing that. But those interpersonal reaction or interactions, like those all happen in real life. Like even if it's behind a screen, even if it's on Instagram, DMing people, um, those relationships, that's the core of it. So I see again, it's a very very complicated thing, but I think my explanation of it all, I think, gives you a very like whole perspective of everything to consider. I mean, obviously, it's kind of overwhelming, but I think it's good to kind of look at it from the big picture, because a lot of people just kind of they want the quick and easy answer, and you generally when answers are really easy, they're lacking in nuance.
Yeah, yeah, well said. I'm trying to think of uh, any way to say it better myself, but to your point, anything that I've seen do really well from that has like an AI fingerprint on it so far in this era that we're living in is the projects that do maybe go 80% AI but still have that 20% human touch to finish it off and make sure everything's good to go. And I think I heard someone use a metaphor recently as well because I think they're getting some legal docs put together or something. But it's like, look, I used AI to get everything kind of organized, but then I still went to my attorney just to make sure, I'm not crazy or this all makes sense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's, in a way, that's kind of the beauty of what we're experiencing now. Because to your point, it's speeding things up, and it doesn't have to be AI either. But I guess I'm wondering from you and kind of your flow of working on all these tracks, what are some other secret weapons or tools that you find yourself using pretty consistently for the other engineers out there? I guess without giving away too much of your secret sauce, just what else have you found super helpful and productive to create a better product?
Yeah, I'm an open book on all these subjects. I'm not I don't agree with gatekeeping in the music industry. I think it's frankly kind of a waste of time. People act like they're really special, but being good at what you do is like the bare minimum. And it kind of relates to back to what I was saying before. Will Borza, who's a really fantastic mastering engineer, he made a video about this, and it's like being good at what you do is the bare minimum. It's about like showing people who you are and making a point of like your communication skills, and all this sort of other stuff is really what is important. But to directly answer your question, as far as what I think is like, some secret sauce or whatever, which people do like to hear, and there are some things like that. Number one, above all else, is knowing what you're hearing is relatively accurate. So investing in studio treatment. And it's kind of a boring answer, frankly, because everyone's heard this. It's just they don't really want to hear it. I feel like, not saying but a lot of people in mind, they don't want to hear that. They want the quick and easy answer. But yeah, before buying plugins, before buying all this other stuff, focus in really high quality monitoring. So there are resources online like the Audio Science Review, which is a forum. You can also find third-party measurements online, and those are the resources to look at for reviews. Don't go on Amazon and look at reviews. Don't read what someone says on Twitter or what someone says on Threads. These headphones are good, blah, blah, blah. They very well might be, but make sure that the reviews or the data that you're looking at is supported by some sort of scientific or pseudo-objective measurement stuff, because even the specs from the manufacturers are often, frankly, kind of misrepresented. So whenever you buy equipment or you're considering like what to invest into as a engineer or producer, is invest in high quality sonics above all else. So the speakers are the biggest, are maybe the biggest cost. I mean, the treatment can cost just as much too, but there are tons of resources online. I mean, the access of information is really wild out there. So Room EQ Wizard is a free software that you can download that'll measure your room. You're going to need a measurement mic. There's also SonarWorks, which kind of streamlines that process. You can put in like your certain pair of headphones, or you get a little microphone and go around your studio and collect measurements. And then again, it's like those types of EQing your speakers or headphones and things, they're not as good of a compromise as actual studio treatment. And so, as always, it's always in flux. Like I definitely could afford to maybe not afford, but I could use some more studio treatment here. No room is perfect unless you're like designing it from the ground up. I'm not fortunate to have that. I didn't design this room from the ground up, but it sounds pretty good in here. To tell people about what I use specifically, I have the Neumann 120 MK2s. So they're a near field monitor. I think they have a 5.5-inch woofer. And then I also have the sub to augment that. All of that's run digitally. And I have room correction that Neumann makes, which is called MA1. So it's similar to SonarWorks or like Room EQ Wizard, these more involved or kind of customizable things. It's Neumann's specific thing. And so having a full range setup is really, really important. I think a thing I've read a lot online is people say, don't get a subwoofer, because a subwoofer is going to be hard to implement in your room. And I think it's kind of funny because it's kind of like, how can you incorporate those frequencies in your music if you can't hear them? So if you can't have a sub, a lot of people are in spaces where they can't have a sub. They have neighbors, they have parents, whatever. Then get a really good pair of headphones that's going to reproduce those frequencies. And for headphones, you can look on Audio Science Review, the forum, or you can go on Oratory 1990, which is a resource on Reddit. And they just have the tech specs for all sorts of different headphones. They've measured them, and you can look and see what headphones actually measure out well, because there are a lot of headphones that people shill that are really, really expensive, and they're not really that great. It's a lot of, there's a lot of marketing that goes into audio products. And to talk about plugins too, I mean, plugins are the same thing too. So another kind of secret weapon that I have, and it's not the most exciting answer, but it's Plugin Doctor, which is a plugin or an application where you can load plugins in and look at exactly what they do. And you'll find that a lot of these plugins are just repackaged versions of everything. What I use personally most of the time is I'm using stuff by DMG Audio, which is just very no nonsense stuff. The reason I use it is just because the graphic interfaces are good. It's not because they sound better. Fab Filter stuff is great. Everybody knows Fab Filter. They just, the graphic design, I mean, if you've used them, you know, it's the graphics is what makes them so good. It just gives you that insight that you want. And then the Ozone stuff too. Those are kind of my top three. I have a ton of other plugins. I mean, I've collected a lot, and they're all great. They all have their use cases, but like, kind of pick one of those three and have a DAW that has like a built-in saturator and stuff like that. If you have Ableton Live, like the most recent version, that's more than you need, really. It's, if you're feeling like your track is lacking and you feel like you need to go out and get a plugin to make it better, most of the time it's just your experience. And that's a harsh truth to swallow, but like, think about the records that were being made like 20 years ago that, you know, like Skrillex is making. He's making on his laptop with FM8 for Massive, like just pretty like stuff today where people, it's just kind of like laughably basic, but he's making these timeless records that like people still listen to today. Millions and millions of streams, changed people's lives. I bet people got married at the concerts and stuff, you know, it's like, it's really impactful stuff. So it's really, again, it's like, it's not the sexiest answer, but it really is the ear. It's not the gear a lot of the time. But that all said, I think investing in really good sonics is really important. So good headphones or good speakers. And then once you got that, then start spending time on room correction, and don't skimp out on it too. Like some people, they're really they're eager and they're like, oh, I just want to start making stuff. And it's like, maybe just like save up another month of paychecks and just like make tracks in your laptop speakers for a little bit, just so you can buy some better quality stuff. Because I have wasted so much money upgrading things. It's been a waste. Like, frankly, like it didn't really make me that much better to like get that quick gratification, instant gratification. I kind of wish that I had just waited a little longer and done research with these third-party measurement kind of resources that I mentioned, to buy just the best quality stuff. And I think regardless of whether or not you're a producer, an engineer, or you're just starting off, those high quality sonics really matter. And that's like why people, they post on the internet, why is my track not popping out? Like, why does my track not sound good? And most of the time it's just because they can't hear what's going on. And funny enough, the laptop speakers, especially on these like new MacBook Pros, they're pretty solid. Like the technology is pretty good already. So if you're just trying to like make music and you don't really care about like super accurately hearing it, you know, just work with what you got and make that work.
Mm-hmm.
But save your money and save for really high quality stuff, because low quality products, they're not built to last. And so that shit's gonna, you know, it's gonna break, or it's just not really gonna give you that high quality stuff. There are amazing songs that are made with really limited equipment too, you know, to the credit of the other side of things, not having to invest everything. I think her name is Underscores. I heard this artist recently. She's collaborated with Skrillex and what's her name?
It's not the new Korean K-pop AI artist.
No. She, yeah,
I'm
no,
kidding.
she's kind of like a hyper pop electronic artist, but kind of in the realm of Skrillex. I don't quote me on this, but I believe that she recorded the
Underscores. I found her
vocals.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Underscores. I believe that she recorded the vocals on her AirPods for one of her like incredibly popular tracks. So you
yeah,
can do it with really limited stuff. Or I even seen a video, I think it was Data Life on YouTube. You could probably find it, showing you how to record with the microphone on your MacBook.
yeah.
So you can work with really limited equipment, but I think it's good to like Oh, I didn't really mention that too. Buy a really good computer. Like a really good computer is super important. A lot of people skimp out on that. They buy like a shitty computer. I don't mean to come across as like a total Apple like fan, but like I've had a lot of different computers. I've built PCs, I've had PCs, I've had laptops. The Apple stuff, not discussing them as a company, we're just talking about the products here. They're really good. They're really good quality. There's a reason why a lot of people use Apple stuff. It's because there's a lot less thought that goes into setting it up and making it work and making good quality music. You can get Logic. It's $200. I bought Logic like 10 years ago. And so I've had that for years and years and years. And it's come in handy a lot of times. So that's why I kind of think that it's good. I mean, the ecosystem kind of sucks, you kind of get trapped in, but I think there's a lot of value in getting a really high quality computer, and you don't have to spend a ton of money. If you get the base model Mac Mini that just came out, that thing is solid. Like even if I was using that, I have a beast. Like I have a spec'd out Mac Studio. So it's like one of the best computers that Apple sells right now. If I had to swap this in for the bottom line Mac Mini, I'd be totally fine. It's not a lot of the time, it's not like the gear holding you back as long as you cross that threshold. But if you skimp out and you buy some cheap, like $300 laptop at Best Buy, I know a lot of people that have had problems with that, where the latency is bad. Windows audio latency just can be difficult to set up. You gotta go deep into the Reddit forums and all that kind of stuff. If you don't want to do that and you just want to make music, just get the cheapest Mac Mini or the cheapest MacBook Air. That's an instance where you're going to exceed that threshold and still have a really, really high quality computer that's going to be able to do plenty of stuff. I mean, the most recent line of Macs, those are that's like better than any computer people had access to like years ago. I mean, it's just the advancements in technology are so great. It's good to be on the cutting edge of this stuff and get it while it's new, because it's going to be a better long-term investment. It's always good to think about like, and what can I do to make long-term investments rather than short-term investments for short-term gains. It's very similar to like investments in general. Like if you're getting into stocks or crypto, if you're trying to make money on the short term, you're going to spend so much fucking work, like checking the charts and all this stuff. But if you invest into some long-term investment, like you get like an IRA or 401k, like that shit just goes up over time. It's not going to be as fun. It's not as sexy. Like, wow, I made these huge gains, but it's a better and a safer long-term investment to hedge your bets on things that are reliable rather than just kind of, I don't know, just people are, it's really that kind
Or
of
if
short-term gain mindset. But yeah, I digress. Got
yeah,
it.
you're good,
Big
man. No, yeah,
tangent.
if you're gonna break the bank on anything, do it on really the core piece of equipment, like your computer, not the headphones.
Yeah, yeah,
Or
exactly.
they're talking about the fascination of plugins, which are relatively just the same thing repackaged in different ways.
Yep.
Um, Same concept. Focus on the one thing that you really need to create good music and go from there. So that's all really good reminders for me, and for I hope for everyone tuned in right now. You got a lot out of this. I know I did. I definitely uh, feel like I have a much thorough understanding of just what goes into what you do as I almost said as a sound engineer, but I know you have a better title than me for that, which is
No, that's good too.
as a music master on all fronts. So again, what's the number one best way for everyone tuned in to follow up and get in touch with you?
Yeah, at Hume Audio on Instagram, or hit me up on my website, humeaudio.com.
There you go, guys. Go check him out, Alexander Hume. Also check out his records. It's his last name backwards. Got a couple signed by Nervous. Some other, he's doing big things out there. So definitely someone you want to stay connected with. And we will catch you in the next episode. Remember, head over to HouseOfHustleLTD.com. That's HouseOfHustleLTD.com. Check out what we got going on over there. If you do buy anything, use that discount code Hustle15 at checkout. Save yourself some bucks and get after it. This is Dream Chasers. I'm General Moses. Guys, you're awesome. We'll catch you in the next episode. And remember, in all you think, say, and do, take it to the next level.